Did you know that one powerful story can turn a total stranger into a loyal customer and even land you on national television? Today's guest knows better than anyone. After losing everything in a natural disaster, she rebuilt her life and business through the power of storytelling, helping women around the world show up sharp, real, and unforgettable on video. I'm your host, Beverly Cornell, founder and fairy godmother of Brand Clarity here at Wickedly Branded, and we've helped hundreds of overwhelmed overachieving consultants, creatives, and coaches awaken their brand magic and boldly bring their marketing to life so they feel more confident and attract their absolute most favorite and profitable clients. And today I'm joined by Tanya Target Camacho. She's an award-winning journalist turned video editor and camera coach. Tanya helps women turn raw words into high impact, authentic video content that truly connects. Her clients have landed over $7.4 million in free publicity and been featured in outlets like Forbes, CNN, and the New York Times. Tanya, I'm really excited to have you here today because we all could use a little bit of coaching in this area.
Excited to be here too and to help your ladies get their stories out there.
Yes, I love that so much. Talk about how you got here from this natural disaster to the video side of PR. What kind of sparked that for you?
I've seen personally stories transform and save lives. One of my decisions to get on video was I saw the power of it as a journalist. I saw the power of emotion. When I was working before I lost my business in the tsunami, I would use the power of story to get national media. I was able to turn a very humble business. I had a party plant business that I started into one of the most successful of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. And just to give you an example of the power of sharing a story, I was actually in a customer's home when I appeared on TV. And at the start of that month, I only had myself and one other girl working in my business. My business just exponentially grew. And people kept asking me, how do you do what you do? How do you get all this free media and publicity? At the time, it was my ace in my cards. It was my competitive advantage, and I didn't want to share it. And the universe had another idea about that. I think it was the 10th of January, 2011 was the year an inland tsunami came through and literally wiped out my entire business. My warehouse was in the epicenter. I had consultants living in lofts, awaiting Black Hawk helicopter airlifting to get to safety. And everything was gone. And 6 months from the day of that tsunami coming through, I actually suffered a stroke. I got trapped in my own mind. I found it hard to write, hard to speak. People kept saying to me, can you teach us now? Can you teach us now? And then the light came on and I went, oh my goodness, that's right. I refused. And look what happened. You do take the lessons that you learned. That warehouse could have been saved, but it wasn't. It was in the epicenter, and I had something that I needed to share. I understand the power of story. I've seen it transform my own business. I've seen it transform the businesses of people who I used to report on as a journalist. I know the power of storytelling tied to teaching events, tied to content. And so I started reluctantly, initially speaking and selling from stage, which was very difficult to do, again, as an introvert. About 6, 7 months after I started being on stage, I actually had someone come up to me and they said, you don't know this, but you, one of my clients, you saved his life. You gave a talk about something about love and being in perpetual motion. And they said, you were giving a talk about someone's book. And I thought to myself, I never talk about someone's book. And then I remembered, because it was this one time I had mentioned this throwaway line in a book called How Would Love Respond, that everything is in a perpetual state of motion. So if we're not moving forward, we are by definition. If we're standing still, we're moving backwards because everything's moving. Apparently, there was a lady in that room who had written a farewell note to her son for him to see when he came home from school. And she was going to go and jump off the Story Bridge in Brisbane after that meeting. And whatever it was, whatever she heard was enough for her to go home. And so her son had his
Wow.
mum. And I just thought to myself, wow, I really didn't want to give that talk. I really didn't want to get up on stage. And that's when I realized that was a mindset shift. And this is a mindset shift for everybody watching this and listening to this. It is not about you or me, Beverly. It's not about any of us when we get on camera, when we get on stage, when we get on a podcast. It's who is waiting out there to hear what we have to say in our unique way. And when we make it about us, we get nervous. When we make it about that one person waiting for that lifeline, then we get up when we're tired. Then we get up on stage when we're nervous. Then we hit the record button. And so it was a very long, reluctant journey to get on video. I fought it for a really long time. And then I realized There's storytelling on paper, and then there's storytelling with emotion where people can see and connect, and we can be vulnerable and we can be raw. And so that's why I'm here today, encouraging everybody like me to let's not make it about us and let's throw that lifeline to that person out there that's waiting to hear your genius and your story and your permission for them to keep going and keep fighting.
This story resonates with me very strongly because there was a time not very long ago, 2, 3 years ago, where I was doing the work and just wanted the work to speak for itself and not wanting to show up for my brand or show up for my business. There was a time where I was so into the work that I didn't wanna show up outside of the work. I thought the work should speak for itself and didn't think that I had to step in front of my brand or step in front of my story. It felt extremely vulnerable that I had made so many mistakes, that I had made so many choices that were not great. But what I learned along the way and what I teach with my clients is that the exact story you've experienced, the trauma, the situations that you've had, they all inform who you are. And there are people waiting for you to guide them. They need you. They need what you have to say, your stories, your connection, your vulnerability to help them step away or out or forward with their story. When I started sharing my story, it was amazing how many people came and said, "Oh my gosh, Beverly, I see you." And there's just so much connection that was never there before. I said, if just one person is affected by this, then I've done something good today. Like, I don't come on here to make some grand difference or change. If it happens, awesome. But I got feedback on LinkedIn that said, hey, I listened to this thing from Beverly on confidence and I did a thing today and it was successful. And it was because of her that I did it. And I'm so grateful that I heard her message today. That to me is a ripple that is so incredibly powerful. You talk about energetically, like, you how can you not have the medicine and not show up at that point?
And Beverly, you may have saved someone's life. You just haven't heard about it yet because the cold, harsh reality is that people sadly, when they lose hope, they do die. And that loss of hope can come from bad health. It can come from
Yeah.
finances. It can come from relationship issues. And so sharing the genius that we've been gifted is you may never get that feedback that you have in fact saved someone's life. But I would be bold and say, I'm sure you have. And the thing too is we don't just have one. I think that's where sometimes people can be challenged in that, like I did a portion of my story because I wanted to talk about video and how hard it is to get on video. And when people see me on video, they say, "Oh, I tell you have great energy and you're such a natural." The thing is that we don't just have one story. We have multiple stories. So if you have a look at what's playing out in the world right now, I'm an immigrant. So I have an immigrant story. And so we all have multiple stories. I did survive a natural disaster. I did survive a mini stroke. I did have to learn how to do these things. And there's all these different awareness days throughout the year that I could trot that out. It's not the facts that we remember. It's how people made us feel. It's that emotion. It's that connection. And I think what a lot of people may not understand is that they have multiple stories. And
Yeah.
these stories can go way back. And it's just a matter of sorting through those to make them relevant to what's going on by making it not about us, making it about them, and forcing ourselves to just focus on that person who's out there today. What is it
Mhm.
they need to hear from you today? And that's something that I do when I sit down and make my personal videos. I'll have my media plan, I have my content calendar, but I don't always follow it. What does my audience need to hear from me today? And how
It's
imperfectly do they need to hear it?
it's interesting because when we work with our clients, we help them with simplifying their messaging and clarity and their niche and their purpose and passion. But when you really get to the heart of why you do what you do and you understand the importance and the ripple effect you can have on your community, like saving someone's life that's drowning, you do things differently. I stepped into my own version of iridescent ballet flats. They're sparkly, they're comfortable, they're exactly me. And when you feel at home in your shoes, when you feel that it works for you, you can start to see the stories and places that you wouldn't have seen before because you have such clarity. When you know your story inside and out, you can take it and apply it in ways I never thought it was possible to connect it to things that I've connected it to. So you're right. There are stories in everything. And if you look, it's so fun to find the story and to connect it. I love that so much for you, for me, and for my clients, and for the people who get to that point. It's I almost have to turn off my creativity now because it's in everything. I can see it in everything.
Stories everywhere, and they're everywhere. Yeah, it is. And the only caveat is when you're sharing a story and it's personal, please make healed from it
Oh,
properly. We want to make sure that we're through the messy middle so that we can reflect back with vulnerability, but with controlled emotion.
I do agree that you have to have some modicum of control of what you're going to say so you're not like falling apart on stage. However, there are times when we're doing something, maybe it's the adrenaline, maybe it's whatever, that vulnerability does make you maybe a little bit more sentimental. But I think that's part of humanity, Tanya. Obviously, it's not ideal from a branding perspective. I also think we're all humans and just seeing somebody human in their moment, that's real life. That is what we're all trying to get through. And sometimes it just hits us hard. So I'm going to give you a free permission or like a gift of, I would say that just a gift of humanity for the moment.
When we think back, there's so many stories that we can access, right? And some of them we can also access to overcome unspoken objections. My entrepreneurial journey as a journalist, I've taught people how to get on TV, get in media, write press releases. And often what people say to me, it depends. But let's say you want to write an outline or you do want to write a script that you want to loosely follow. And people say, I'm not a writer. I don't know the first thing to do. I failed English. When I was in high school, my English teacher told me that I would never write as long as my butt pointed downwards. And he actually said it in a much more unkind way. I was devastated because I'd always wanted to be a writer. And that severely impacted me. I didn't give up my dream of being a journalist, but that first 12 months in a newsroom, I was petrified because I had that playing in the back of my head that I was a terrible writer. And then I ended up becoming an award-winning journalist. And I've made a life out of writing stories. And the only reason I share that is because people would say to me, I don't know how to write. Don't worry, I failed English and I've done okay. So you can do it too. I did end up passing English, by the way, but at that time, at that school, I was not doing very well. So when we look back, there's so many stories that we have that are relevant to the struggles that our clients are going through.
I feel like that moment of humanness probably made them see things just differently and that you don't have to be perfect to be accepted. Or there's so much in that. I feel like some of those moments where the more vulnerable I've been, the more real I've been, the more authentic I have been in alignment with who I am and how I show up in the world, it's scary. But it's also the point with which I've had the most success. I just think it's so good. And I think for women specifically, that is something that we really struggle with because emotion is not supposed to be in business. It's like a thing, right? We're not supposed to be emotional. The only emotion I ever saw in the boardroom was anger, masculine anger, not feminine, maybe sentimentalness or sadness or hurt or whatever. I think there's just lots of opportunities for us to showcase that now and maybe change the world just a little bit with the way you show up like that. So I appreciate that moment for you because of that. Let's talk about branding and marketing just a little bit. How did you develop your brand? Because I feel like there's a little bit of a soul searching that happens when you do a branding, especially for a solopreneur. You have to find yourself to really hit what makes you unique and special. How did you come to where you are today?
It's interesting. So, telling and sharing stories is always who I've been since I was a little girl. And so it was obvious to me what I wanted to do. When I was in Australia, because I live in Southern California now, I was running my own events. I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head, about 12 events per month. I was running workshops. I had waiting lists. It was crazy. And I couldn't serve any more people. So I needed to go online in order to serve more people in other countries. And so I came to America to attend some marketing conferences. I ended up making the top 10 in a global marketing competition. When I came over to collect my prize, I was invited to speak at an invitation only event. And I spotted who would become my husband. I call him McSweeney. I ended up moving over here with my daughter and my Cocker Spaniel. And of course, I married McSweeney. And my intention was to do exactly what I was doing in Australia and had done incredibly well, which was teach entrepreneurs, leaders, thought leaders, influencers how to get on mainstream media to leverage with their social media, because mainstream media's social media have millions of followers. So even though people might not watch the news on TV, they watch it on their social media. There was just one small problem with that, and it's called American media. I didn't care for the lack of journalism, and I had some private clients with the most incredible stories, and I could not get it on national American TV. I was in negotiations with Good Morning America. I was speaking with the executive producers. They had these stories for 6 weeks. They thought they were incredible, but they couldn't believe that the story was true because no one else had published it yet. No one else had run it. Now in Australia, you just play off the competition and that's how you get it over the line. I did that here, but they were all too scared to run the story. So the story just didn't happen. And I did end up getting obviously some stories on TV, but I said to my husband, if it takes this much of all the tools in the trade that I have garnered over the last 20 years, I can no longer, in good faith, tell my clients and my students that it's easy to get on TV and in magazines and publications. I said, because it's not. And I'm in integrity. I'm not going to go and sell something and say it's easy when it's not. And my husband's extremely supportive. And he was like, obviously, you can't do it anymore. So I'm like, what am I going to do? I actually ended up doing finance, right? We're Americans, so we have multiple hustles. And my husband ended up doing an insurance business. And he said, can you help me behind the scenes? So I did. And I hated it. Every day was a slog. Every day was an effort. And I felt so lost because I felt like I wasn't in alignment. I wasn't using the talents that I was given. And so I was just in no man's land, just trying to figure it out what it was that I wanted to do. And then because we have multiple businesses, my husband's a bodybuilder and we wanted to get him sponsorships. It's an expensive sport. And so I started making videos to get some sponsorship and some brand deals. And that worked really well. And so then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm back storytelling. This kind of I feel alive again, like sharing
Mhm.
people's stories. Maybe I could do this. And I thought, who am I at 50 to now go and launch another business? But then when I started reverse engineering, I forgot that I used to do video production and reporting and corporate reporting in my 20s. I started remembering all this stuff. And I thought, I just want to empower and I want to bring powerful stories to the world. I'm all about you are your own publishing machine. So you can make a video viral to get that video on TV. I've done it. I've reverse engineered a story that I've released on YouTube and then got interviewed on national TV the next day. And so I've come full circle. That was one of the darkest times
Mhm.
because I just felt lost.
I think this probably resonates with so many of the listeners, the moments of feeling lost and what do I do and what is my purpose? And I think it's really hard for our clients, people who come to us looking for help, to be in the work and then also figuring that out. So they're like doing work, right? They're like trying to do the hustle. And then they have to try to figure out who am I and what do I really want to do with the rest of my life? I'm 50 as well. So it's like I don't have a lot left. So I want to make an impact now. I think I have a lot left. But now it matters more because I don't have a lot of time just to quote unquote waste figuring it out. And everyone says you're supposed to know what you're going to be when you grow up when you're 50 years old, right? That's what's that happen. But we're still evolving, changing, and what does that look like? And certainly the business I started 13 years ago accidentally because my husband's active duty military and I had to take my show on the road to what I do now is which is much more intentional and built around what I want, like the life that I want, the kind of work that I want, the people I want to work with. There's so much more intention now because I am clear. It changes everything. Being lost is hard though. It's a hard place to be and live in for that amount of time.
One of the things that I would consciously remind myself about is that anecdote about the arrow. Whenever I think about myself going through, and I would do this when I was going through the mud, is the more tension we're feeling, the more lost you are. It's
Yeah.
great. It doesn't feel great, but it's going to be great because being in that alignment, you can feel it and you get more of those goosebump moments.
The work focuses on helping women show up unscripted and real, which sounds scary and awesome at the same time. How do you personally balance being in alignment and authentic with the professionalism when the camera's on?
Great question. And the answer would be time and place. And if you have a look at a lot of the influencers, right, these days, you'll see them making videos on the toilet. You'll see them making videos in bed. You'll see them making videos without makeup. And there's a time and a place. Does that mean you should do that all the time? No, I'm not
Yeah.
tuning up on this podcast looking like I just woke up. But I have those in my grid because they're relatable. What we want to do is we want to show that we're professional. We have videos where you turn up in nicely dressed with your makeup and your hair brushed, but we also want to show the messy middle. There's a lot of connection. Have a look at people like Mel Robbins. I love Mel Robbins. She pretty much looks the same most of the time, but you'll see her in her wardrobe trying to pick out an outfit. Uneven skin tone, crazy hair, crazy outfit. We love Mel Robbins. Does that mean that she's unprofessional? We love her even more for it because she's
Mhm.
relatable. The biggest takeaway is it's not about the content, it's about the connection.
Mm.
No one knows what it is that you're supposed to say. Just get started and get out there and think about it. If you are a professional woman, right, which is a lot of the ladies that I work with, and you're worried about that image, You can make that video and you can publish it and make it just visible for you. Or you could put it where you have a smaller audience. Or you could send it out to friends as a little hello, personalized video to them just to get comfortable being on camera. So, should all your videos look like you're a hot mess? No, but should they all look extremely professional? I guess it depends on your audience and it depends on how much you want to really have connection and engagement. Because in my personal experience and what I've seen with my clients and my students is that the audience's authenticity and connection.
I struggled before I went on camera with the idea of always having to be perfectly poised and polished, and my skin being perfect and my hair being perfect, and like having to hire a friend to straighten it out and blow it out and do all these things to be even on camera. Now, I still do those, like you've talked about. Like, I still have times when I do more of that. If I'm doing something that's I know it's gonna be really evergreen or something like that, then I'll maybe spend a little bit more time. But what was happening was I was getting in my own way of like maybe perfect before I pressed record. And then I wasn't pressing record. So I gave myself permission to maybe have a little messier hair, not have perfect makeup, and to just show up as me and real and say, okay, this is who I am. There's times when, like you said, I can get fancied and gussied up, and there's times when I can look way worse than that struts me. But this hair is my hair. I really had to let go of some of that because, and I do believe we're in a society, like you said, we've evolved from overly polished, professional, almost inauthentic video now to being more real. So for my audience, I feel like most of my audience is around my age. They're in the same thick of life. They're momming, they're building a business, they're doing all the things. The messy middle is right now happening. I love the idea of giving permission to not always have to be perfect and to be in your bed with your crazy hair and whatever. If that works for you and your brand, that's amazing. And I love that for you.
Not being perfectly manicured is not an excuse anymore to get on video. That's not the case. And then when we do get on video not looking perfect, I think it lands and resonates. I run experiments, a lot of experiments in my business. I'll illustrate what that means. I would encourage all of your viewers and listeners to run an experiment. Set yourself a goal, however many videos it is. It might be one a week just to get started. It might be 3 a week. And do some polished ones and do some not polished ones and just see how they perform. Because if you haven't been sharing videos, you need to share consistently to also help the algorithm push your video so more of your audience sees it. You could always on Instagram do something called a trial post, which can get you in front of a bigger audience and not just your initial friends and fans. I just got out of bed. I don't care today video I'm going to do 4 of those this month. It's the start of a new month. I'm going to do 4 perfectly coiffed ones and I'm just going to see which ones do better. Another experiment, I would encourage your viewers, be a guest on a podcast. If you are running your business, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to marketing, I would encourage you to run a podcast experiment. How many leads can you generate from being on someone else's podcast and run that as a separate experiment? And that will also get you on stages, that will get you delivering workshops, that will get you doing all kinds of stuff. And the cool thing about experiments is there's no emotional attachment to an experiment. You are literally running an experiment, playing with a couple of parameters to see which one goes well. So if it fails, you're like, that experiment didn't work. And there's no sting in it. This was an experiment, didn't work. Which variable should I play with next? So have a look and see what you're distracted by, and have a look and see how your energy is. And is that captivating people? And how can you lift it up? Because the fastest way to get better on video is to watch yourself back without any sound.
I tell my clients all the time that you just need to start doing it because the more you do it, the better you get. Whether you look the sound on or not, obviously the sound off is helpful, but just saying the words, getting them out, creating those phrases, sharing the stories, making them better. Now that I've said my story and talked about them so many times now, it's like a little file cabinet up there. I don't need to be so scripted. I might need a reminder to say the story, pull out that story. But when you start saying it, it's like a muscle. You do get better. You're able to speak quicker and clearer and pull in ideas faster because you've had the practice. And I love the experimental side of things because if it can free you enough to be able to just try some things to see what works, this idea of giving yourself a little bit of freedom to just play is very powerful and not take yourself so seriously. And you can always remove a video. Yes, things live online, but you can take it off your channel. But I love looking at my old stuff and looking at myself now and how I am, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I've come so far." So I have a magic hat, and in my magic hat is a bunch of rapid fire questions. So I'm just let the universe decide what we're gonna talk about.
Love it.
If your brand could have dinner with one iconic brand, who would it be and why?
This is a silly answer, but I'm going to share it anyway. It would be Budweiser because I want to pat the Clydesdales. All those silly challenges, they drive me crazy.
What core values guide your business decisions, interactions with customers?
Truth and authenticity and in alignment is extremely powerful for me, and helping women be vulnerable and authentic in a powerful way.
What's one thing you believed about branding or marketing that turned out to be complete BS?
You don't have to post every single day to go viral. You haven't hit the right mix yet of what your audience wants to see.
How do you keep your entrepreneurial spirit alive?
I am a woman of faith, so I feed it a lot of prayer. And my husband and I go to church at least once a week. I'm very careful about who I surround myself with and what I put into and around me.
I do have something a little bit more fun. It's called the magic wand segment. I'm going to wave it and we're going to go back. What is some advice you wish you'd had that you could give young Tanya?
It would be quite simple. Firstly, everything is going to be okay. You would be amazed what magic can unfold within a 5 year time period, 10-year time period, because the tsunami was 2011 and 2017. So 6 years later, I spotted my future husband and I was living in another country. We often hear about how we overestimate what we can achieve in the short term and underestimate what we can achieve mid to long term. I would say to her, it's going to be okay. Magic is coming.
I love that. What would young Tanya say about where you are now?
Little Tanya, do you mean how little? Because this is actually a technique that I've used for myself. I used to suffer from terrible stage fright, like terrible. And what I did one day is I was speaking on Jeff Walker's stage. And as I walked up the stairs, I literally looked to the side of me and I put my hand out. And in my mind, I was holding little Tanya's hand. And I looked at her, gave her a little smile. And then in my mind, the minute we crossed over, I was bringing her with me because when I grew up, I was always told to turn my light down. I imagine little Tanya and I'd say, come on, little Tanya, it's time for us to step into our greatness. And the minute that I stepped across from that first step onto that stage, I left everything behind me. And I kept holding little Tanya's hand all through until I got over stage fright. And if I was to go back and speak from stage next year, which I will, my stage fright will be back and I'll be holding little Tanya's hand again. And that's what I did when I went on video for the first time. It'll be like, okay, come on, little Tanya. It's time for us to turn our light up. I would say to little Tanya today, I would go, wow, look at you go. And you might think that you're midway through, but really it's just starting. And let's go write even stronger chapters in this book than the opening chapter.
The wand will take us to those future chapters, like decades and decades down the road, Tanya. Now, we're all at your funeral and someone's giving your eulogy and they're talking about the impact that Tanya made with your work. What are they telling us?
What I want to be known as at my funeral is she empowered ordinary, everyday women, helped them get their story, helped them share that to turn that vulnerability and that insecurity into a strength that's incredibly impactful. She helped change, save, and impact lives. That's what I would like my legacy to be. And hopefully through that, tremendous change will come because who knows who you have watching that needs funding for something, and a video could make all the difference with them finding some kind of sponsor or some kind of breakthrough.
It's beautiful. I've said that for so long in my life is everybody has a story to tell. Everybody has a really special story. It's just a matter of finding it and sharing it in a way that people can connect with, like you said earlier, that connection, that authenticity and alignment is so incredibly powerful for people. So beautiful. That's a beautiful way to live your life.
I find older people fascinating because of their stories, and they have some cool stories and some cool lessons and some cool wisdom.
Yes. Okay, so I have the wand. The wand's going to take us back to present day. And if I could wave my magic wand and fix anything related to your marketing or branding today, like you're struggling with today, what would that be? What would you need help with today?
For me, it's always staying abreast of those pesky algorithms and the latest. I've got some friends who are serious influencers, and their momager, who's a friend of mine, said to me, hashtags aren't where it's at anymore, Tanya. You've got to put it in little tiny words and then you drag it across on the screen because the algorithm, the AI, picking it up in the script and they're not using hashtags anymore. But I still see hashtags everywhere. Beverly, please. Hashtags, no hashtags. What's the go?
LinkedIn, no hashtags. Absolutely not. It's still being used and it's still being picked up in other spaces for sure. But LinkedIn, for those business sides of things, do not use them anymore. The biggest thing you want to do, though, if you're going to have a topic, is put it in the caption because that's where it organically gets picked up. So no matter what, it needs to be in the caption. Instagram, that's we do a little bit of that. That's not our big forte. We do a lot with LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be every day, like you said, 3 days a week, really good content. So don't overwork yourself on this. But hashtags are bye-bye on LinkedIn. Okay, so we're back in time. My very last question for you is what does it mean to be wickedly branded to you? How do you show up wickedly branded? And what advice would you give our listeners to be more wickedly branded?
When I think about being wickedly branded, I have a girlfriend, a couple of girlfriends in marketing. One stands out, and that's because she's got spiky hair, a leather jacket. She's totally awesome, and she's always dressed like a rock star, which is her brand, right? So for me, wickedly branded is being uniquely you. I get when people say, "Oh, I don't sound like myself on video. I don't like what I see." I get it because it's not you. So wickedly branded to me is if we sit down and we have a cup of coffee or we go for a glass of wine, how I am having wine is how I am on video and
Mm,
always showing up in authenticity and being your true self. And I know people talk about that and they're like, oh, the world's already got someone else. They really need you. That's true. And we really need to embody it because
mm,
at the end of the day, all the information that we have, all the knowledge that we have, we can get from another person. We can get from AI now, right? But we work with people because we like that person. We know and
mm.
trust, and they're authentic and we vibe with them. So I would encourage all of your audience, for me, being wickedly branded is don't be afraid. Give yourself permission. Run some more experiments. What I'm saying is relax, right? The you who is with your girlfriends or at a barbecue that everyone falls in love with, that's the you that we want to get on your social media. That is wickedly branded to me. No dissonance between when no one's looking and when I'm on camera.
Yes. Great explanation and description of Wickedly Branded. Where can our listeners connect with you, learn more about your work, and just take in all that you have to share as far as knowledge, and then maybe even work with you?
The easiest way is probably come and check me out on Instagram, Tanya Target Camacho. And under my bio, there's a link for my link tree, which is Tanya Target Camacho. So if you're familiar with Linktree, it's Tanya Target Camacho. And you'll see you can have a coffee chat with me. Ways that I work with people is I work with successful women, many of whom are in overwhelm, either know what they need to do with video, but don't have the time to do it, or need to do video, but aren't really sure which parts of their content to pull out. So I work as a journalist and I interview. So just like we've got like an interview happening. And when this airs, there'll be you and there'll be me. But when I interview my clients, there's no me. I just edit all the sound bites. So I bring you out in all your glory. So that's one way to work with me, and that's on my link tree. But also, I encourage you to apply for a free video audit. I do review videos for people and just give them honest feedback. What I love about this, maybe some show notes or editor's notes. It is an application process because obviously, when we are offering something for free, unfortunately, time is a factor and we can't offer it to everybody. So, if you would love for me to take my journalistic eye and give you some feedback on how you could perhaps take your videos to the next level, get some more engagement and some more traction, then I encourage you to come check me out on Instagram and apply for a free video audit.
It's a generous offer to give some free advice. Thank you so much, Tanya, for sharing that with our listeners and giving them the opportunity. You guys, you're not going to see this kind of feedback. This is a golden opportunity for you to get honest feedback and to be able to grow and take your video skills, your speaking skills to another level. I don't know anybody who couldn't use this. So take advantage of it. It's a great offer. Thank you, Tanya.
And it's in a safe place.
It's so nice to meet people who are so excited about what they do and have such great stories. Thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
To my listeners, I hope today's episode lit a little bit of a fire in you about doing more video, showing up and doing the reps, trying to practice, maybe play and experiment a little bit with video and speaking of visibility and authority. I hope it gave you some new ideas. And most of all, I hope it inspired you to take some small steps, some action, messy hair and all. Because here's the thing that I know for sure: your message matters, your work matters, and the world needs to hear more of what you have to say. At the end of the day, marketing isn't just about visibility. It's also about the impact you can make, the changes you can make. It's about connecting with the right people in the right way that feels absolutely 100% true to you. So I want you to keep showing up. I want you to keep sharing your brilliance, and I want you to keep making your specific magic in the world. And hey, if you ever feel stuck, you know you have Tanya to help you out with some video, and you also have us over here at Wickedly Branded to help you as well. You are never, ever alone. So we are here to help you turn your spark into a wildfire. But until next time, I want you to dare to be more wickedly branded. Wow, what an incredible conversation we just had. I hope that this episode lit a little bit of a fire under you to finally bring your brand to life in a way that feels true to you. Remember, clarity is the spark, but activation is that fire and flame that keeps your message and your visuals and your strategy aligned, and the confidence that follows. So does that lovely thing called momentum that you've been waiting for. So if today's episode, if you loved it, make sure you are subscribed to the Wickedly Branded Marketing Podcast so you never miss an insight or a conversation. Until next time, dare to be wickedly branded.